My name is James Eck. I'm a Vice President and Senior Credit Officer at Moody's Investor Service. I'm on the insurance team here at Moody's covering a number of Bermuda reinsurers, and we recently published a special comment entitled Climate Change Risks Outweigh Opportunities for P&C Reinsurers. We make a distinction between climate shocks, which are physical events such as droughts and hurricanes, and climate trends, which are very long-term weather-related phenomena, such as rising average global temperatures. So when we're talking about climate change, we're referring to climate trends, although the two are interrelated. In terms of the risks to P&C insurers and reinsurers from climate change, the primary risks come from property policies provided to both individuals and corporations that are exposed to weather-related catastrophe events. There's also emerging litigation risk through liability insurance policies. In recent years, there have been a number of lawsuits lodged against corporations alleging damages arising from climate change. There's also risk on the investment side in terms of carbon-related financial assets potentially falling in value. Although we do think the investment risk is modest for most P&C companies, given that investment portfolios are broadly diversified. There's been a significant increase in the number of weather-related catastrophe events over the past several decades. Over the past 10 years, there's been an average of about 310 weather-related catastrophe events per year, compared to about 60 events annually during the 1970s. So along with this increase in the frequency of weather-related catastrophe events, there's also been a concomitant increase in insured losses. The primary way that P&C companies can mitigate the risks arising from climate change is really their ability to reprice the insurance policies, typically on an annual basis. But there are some limitations to this. For example, there could be regulatory constraints on the ability of companies to raise prices for certain products. And to the extent you have an increase in the frequency of cat events and the damages that arise from them, you could find yourself with an inability to raise prices to the level that you need to offset those increasing losses. This would result in shrinking underwriting margins and reduced profitability for the companies. There's also uncertainty related to the imprecision in catastrophe modeling. P&C companies typically use catastrophe loss models for assessing, pricing, and managing their risk exposures, but the models have certain limitations, including the assumption parameters used in them. Historical events have demonstrated that the actual losses arising from catastrophic events can differ materially from the modeled losses. And to the extent you have uncertainties related to how climate change interacts with the frequency and severity of storms in the future, you could have a situation where you're constantly trying to play catch up in terms of rising prices to levels that you need to offset the increased losses. One of the biggest opportunities coming out of climate change for P&C companies would be the ability to sell more insurance to customers as they look to use insurance as part of comprehensive risk adaptation strategies to deal with the consequences of climate change. There's also the protection gap, which is the difference between the economic losses that arise from a cat event and the insured losses, because not everybody has insurance. The protection gap has increased steadily over the past several decades and was actually estimated to be about $160 billion during 2017, which was the largest protection gap number on record. So there's a big opportunity for insurers and reinsurers in the years ahead as they have the ability to sell more product to help customers close this protection gap. There's also the potential for the increased utilization of insurance to deal with extreme weather events such as agriculture and crop insurance, flood insurance, and other weather risk management products. We also think the transition to renewable and clean power generation will increase demand for both property and liability coverages.